Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Perspective podcast. If you're new here, I'm your host, Max, and what I do is I find Star Wars fans from all across the galaxy to get their Star Wars story. And today I have on the Vanguard Mandalorian. How you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. So usually the first question I ask everybody on this podcast is, what got you into Star Wars?
Oh, man. So I remember being a kid when the Star Wars Special Edition re-release came out, and they started, re-releasing them in theaters. And what was that, like 1997 or something like that?
Yeah, it was around that.
Yeah, and so I remember going to A New Hope when it came out, and I just fell in love with all of it. The spaceships, the Jedi, the stormtroopers, all of it. And then from there, it was every time that it would re-release, it would come out. And then I remember when the box set of VHS of Special Edition came out, and watching that over and over and over again. And I just fell in love with Star Wars and stayed with it for a long time.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. If you had to pick one thing to be your favorite thing about Star Wars, what would that one thing be?
I think that, and I didn't appreciate it as a kid, but I think the thing that I like the most about Star Wars now is just how absolutely global it is and how many people it reaches in so many different ways. There's people that love Jedi and are so sucked into that, and people that love the Empire and all of it, and just the way that so many different people from so many different backgrounds can come together over one common thing, I think is absolutely incredible.
Heck yeah. So you're I'm looking at like your Instagram right now. You're building kind of your own like original character, Mandalorian. How did you get into doing that?
So I remember being a kid and I was a huge Luke Skywalker fan. And then I remember running around on the playground as a kid, and Luke was just so overpowered. He had the Force and he had a lightsaber and he could block stuff. And then I remember the first time that I saw Boba Fett, and I was like, who is this guy? He's been able to lure people into his whole trap in Bespin and all that stuff. And I just instantly fell in love with the armor. I remember as a kid, I loved knights and stuff like that. And 3D print or cosplay has been huge for a long time, but I never really got into it. And then with 3D printing and everything, I started getting into it more and more. And I loved the Mandalorian concept of I can make whatever I want to make. I can use whatever colors I want to use and do all that. So that's been the route that I've gone with it. Everything's going very, very slowly just because I'm learning techniques and everything as time goes on. So it's been a slow process, but it's definitely been fun to get everything figured out.
Heck yeah. I've been, I'm making Boba Fett's armor from the Book of Boba Fett right now.
Oh,
It's a hefty process, man, because I'm doing the same thing. I 3D print all my stuff, but those helmets in the background, they look killer, man. You did a good job with the paint job.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks. Yeah, it started with I had no idea what I was doing, and I printed one, and my son loved it, so now this is his.
Nice.
And then, he runs around the house with it all the time. And then I started, and I was like, okay, this is going to work. This is going to be great. And I printed out one, and I have a large head, so I can fit it on me, but I wanted to use some other pads that were out there and some more detailed pads, and I couldn't fit that on. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to use that to try different paint processes and stuff like that. And I liked the way that it turned out. And so I started over again and made one that fits me right. And now it's on to whatever is next.
Right on. You, so you have what else do you have done? Is it just the helmets right now, or what else are you working on at the moment?
I have the helmets done. I did a shoulder pad. So I'm kind of doing a modified Bo-Katan Night Owl combination with Paz Vizsla, heavy infantry Mando concept. I'm just pulling bits and pieces from all over the place. So I liked the blue of the Night Owls and Bo-Katan, and so I went with that. And I'm just using bits and pieces of a lot of different things. My computer is flooded with 3D files for printing, just various parts. And so I started doing a chest. I had a failed print, and then from there I started this program called Gaffi's for Good, and so it's a donation thing of Gaffi sticks that I could make. And I did not expect people to be interested. Really, I had a couple people like message me before, and all of a sudden it is just flooded. So my 3D printer has been doing nothing but printing Gaffi sticks recently.
Okay.
So it's been an ongoing process, but hopefully I'll be back to armor in the next like week or so.
Heck yeah. What did you say that was
crossed.
called again?
Gaffi's for Good. So I just started it. For my own mental health, I started making Gaffi sticks. It was a real easy 3D print, and everyone was into the whole Tusken Raider thing after the Book of Boba, and so I found a 3D print file for this Gaffi stick, and I reached out to the owner. I found the print or the file on Thingiverse and reached out to the owner, and then I was like, okay, I enjoy making these. It seems like people want them. They're pretty easy for me to make. How can I ship them to people? Because a Gaffi stick's pretty long, that'd be a lot in shipping.
Right.
So I found a way to like break it all down and kind of ship it together, and then people will glue it back together. And people offered to pay me money for it. It was something that I enjoyed doing with my hands for myself. So I really wasn't looking for funding or anything. I just wanted people to cover the materials. And then I found The Force for the Cure, which is a Star Wars based breast cancer, mental health, and autism charity. And so I reached out to their owner and I was like, hey, if I have people donate, can I just take whatever they have as a donation and send it to you? And they're like, yeah, 100%. That'd be great. That's awesome. We really like the idea. And so I'm only taking money as I can produce the Gaffis. I'm not trying to start this whole long list of orders, because they're handmade and they're one at a time. And so there's a couple pictures of them on my Instagram too, but I didn't really have a good name for what I was trying to do. And so I just picked Gaffi's for Good. And it's not like an official charity or anything like that, but whatever money, and it's not a set amount either. With shipping and everything, they're like $46 to make and ship and all that. And then whatever people want to donate on top of that, if they want to donate $2, $1, cool, that's great. It goes to a great cause. And if they donate way more, like, that's awesome too. But just some way of giving back and keeping it Star Wars oriented and trying to help people. And so that's what I've been doing recently. That's
awesome, man. That's really cool. I had no idea. I'm looking at the Gaffis. I got your Instagram pulled up on my phone right now. They look pretty sweet. So that's awesome that you're doing that especially if you do for charity. So it's like a win-win, you get to do something you love, and also you get to help out a lot of people. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Sweet.
That's the hope. That's the goal.
Definitely.
And trying to keep it Star Wars oriented.
Yeah, definitely.
So
definitely. Right on, man. Right on. Is your Mando going to have a Gaffi stick, or have you decided?
No.
Yet?
So I probably won't. It's not really like my thing.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my really good friends here, he saw me make one and he's like, oh my gosh, I want one. So he had me make this one. He wanted it ridiculously long. So it's like an oversized.
Oh, wow.
Ridiculously long Gaffi stick. And so I made that one for him. And so he'll be carrying that around at whatever he gets up to.
That's sick.
But yeah, it's been a process.
Definitely. So this is probably going to be the longest and the hardest question that I ask you out of all the questions.
Yeah.
We're going to go from Phantom Menace all the way to the Rise of Skywalker. If you want to include Solo and Rogue One, you can, but those are just kind of optional if you want those.
Sure.
And let's go through each one and maybe list something that really stuck out to you and meant a lot to you from each movie.
Okay. I think. Okay. Well, so we're starting with Phantom Menace.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the battle droids, the B-1 battle droids, their tanks. I loved it. The military aspect of them all, I loved it. And then there were the Gungans, and I hated it. And I loved when the droids fought the Gungans, and I come from a military background, military family, military background, everything. And so to see these battle droids like roll in and then all of a sudden be defeated, I was like borderline heartbroken. But then, the comical aspect of it, with the Gungans and stuff, definitely was out there. But yeah, I would probably say the B1s were probably my favorite. And then the pod racing. I remember as a kid, after that came out, pod racing, and then there was like that pod racing arcade game, and I was terrible at it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, and you had to like actually balance and everything. I was terrible at it. Yeah. But it was super fun. So I thought the pod racing was really cool. And that was probably it for Phantom Menace for me. And then Attack of the Clones was the clones. I know a lot of people are like, oh yeah, Phase 2 clone armor is awesome, and this, that, and the other. No, for me, Phase 1 clone armor, the Republic gunship. My favorite part ever is all the Jedi are surrounded, and next thing you know, here come all these gunships dropping in.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part, hands down. And then again, Jango Fett, like I'd had Boba Fett growing up as a kid, but that was the only Mandalorian that you knew of or whatever. You didn't even really know he was Super Mandalorian unless you read the comics and everything. And then next thing you know, you had Jango Fett, who's jumping around and flamethrowers and pistols and all sorts of stuff. And he was just awesome. It was an awesome, another character to throw in there. So I loved that. I love Easter eggs in movies or things that connect. So having seen Slave One before, and then seeing Slave One again, or Boba Fett Starship, or whatever we're calling it, Slave One, seeing that again in Attack of the Clones was awesome to me. And like to my son, because my son has started watching them, but he's watching them in chronological order, which I have a love-hate relationship with, but whatever, he's watching them in chronological order. And so to have him get to, Empire Strikes Back, and he's like, that's Jango Fett's ship. And it's like, no, child, it's Boba Fett's ship. Oh my God. But yeah, so I loved that. Jango Fett and the clones were awesome. And then Revenge of the Sith, again, probably the clone battles. And what I loved too was the realism in the clones of, depending on what environment they were fighting in, was what they were using. All of their gear was different depending on what environments they were in. I just thought that was awesome.
Yeah, the Kashyyyk clone troopers are sick, like with that camo.
The camo, and then when the ones that are fighting with Commander Cody's troops that have all the orange and everything.
Yeah, those were my favorite.
Those are awesome. when they're landing in and you see them jumping off the ships, and they have so many different. Yeah, I thought it was awesome. And then I remember the opening of Revenge of the Sith blew me out of the water. Giant opening starship battle, and you're sitting there, you end the scroll, and next thing you know, boom, there you are in space over Coruscant. I was like,
you hit that is giant awesome. Drums, just done. Done.
Exactly.
And it just goes from like 0 to 60 like real quick,
Yeah. So I loved that. And then I'm gonna circle back to A New Hope, Rogue One and Solo.
Okay.
But yeah, so then A New Hope, classic Star Wars, like
definitely
it's what I fell in love with, so Star Wars is Star Wars, and that was awesome to watch that and see that. And that like set the baseline for me of what is Star Wars. And then it had a good combo of Jedi and not Jedi and everything else. And then moving forward, you have Empire Strikes Back. And for a long time, I hated Empire Strikes Back.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Right? So yeah, I remember that would be the one that I would skip over. Like I would watch A New Hope, and this back in the box set, VHS box set, I would watch A New Hope and I would watch Return of the Jedi. And I would just kind of skip over Empire Strikes Back because I always wanted the good guys to win. And I felt like in that movie, no matter what they did, they were continually losing. Luke tries to leave to help his friends. That's a loss. Then I just felt like there was nothing but defeat. Now I absolutely love it. It's the first time we see Boba Fett. It's that, we see our heroes struggle throughout the movies. And I just thought it was now I think it's a really good movie. And when I was a kid, I thought that snowspeeders were awesome.
Oh yeah.
And I used to, I just thought that they were awesome. And I remember going to like family gatherings afterwards with like a jump rope, trying to run around my uncles and stuff legs with a jump rope, thinking I'm going to trip them up. And they're like, what are you doing, child? Gosh, you have too much energy. So
that's funny.
Yeah, that was that. And then Return of the Jedi. I loved the Endor assault, the whole, infiltrating past I don't love the Ewoks, but I love the way that C-3PO becomes a hero to the Ewoks. We see C-3PO as like this background character throughout the whole thing.
Right.
And next thing we know, he's borderline a god to these Ewoks and everything. So I just thought that was super fun and super great. And then I loved the cumulative battle at the end. You had the troops on the ground, and then we go up to the starship battle, and then we go to the battle with Luke, and it's all happening simultaneously. And we're jumping around, and you can see out the Emperor's window the starship battle, and you can see up from the forest moon of Endor Death Star up above, like I just thought it was a really good kind of combination of everything. And then we move it. What was the first sequel? I don't know. I haven't even watched the sequels in so long. Force Awakens, right? So I loved the cameos. Not even cameos, but I loved the first time that you see the Millennium Falcon, right? You see Rey going through, and all of a sudden they find the Millennium Falcon, and it's like there was so many just moments of nostalgia from my childhood, because you really don't have those in the prequels. You have some things because you can relate to, oh my gosh, this is Anakin. I know he's going to become Vader and things like that, but you really don't have any of the same stuff from the classics that you had before. So seeing that, seeing Harrison Ford come out and, it's real, all of it. And I instantly flash back to, hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, so definitely going between the two of them, was awesome. And the only thing that really got me in the sequels was there's one scene in particular, and I don't even remember which movie it's in, and it's where Poe Dameron, and I love him as a character, and I love his X-Wing and the way that he is, and BB-8 and all that, but he pulls up in front of this, I don't even remember what it is, the gigantic planet-destroying Star Destroyer, the Juggernaut.
Oh, yeah, that's Last Jedi. That's the one that comes in.
And he's sitting there, and he's like, I'm looking for, Admiral Hugs, and they do this whole back and forth, and it's like, I appreciate humor in Star Wars because there is, and it's trickled in throughout so many different things. But to me, that was just this blatant, borderline too much. Because if you look at the Empire back in the day, if they saw one X-Wing, they're blowing it out of the sky, no questions asked, no hailing or anything. It's we're sending everything right off the bat. So that kind of got me. But Star Wars is Star Wars. We saw expanded worlds. We saw characters. We saw, we went back from the CGI of the prequels to more actual created aliens and people in costumes. Yeah. Exactly, right? To me, that's Star Wars. And then to go from that and then to go to Rogue One coming out. And I remember when Rogue One first came out, it was one of the only Star Wars movies I never saw in theaters. And really? I had one of my, I missed it. Just with work and a bunch of other things, I kept missing it continuously.
Right.
And next thing I knew, it was out of theaters. And I remember it came out on DVD or it came out for digital download or whatever. And that was the first thing I did. I downloaded it and watched it. And one of my good friends was like, hey, you're going to love this. You need to watch it. And I watched it. And I remember it was after work, but it was my first opportunity to watch it. And I watched it and it was midnight. And I remember texting him at 1 a.m. and I was like, this is the worst Star Wars movie that I've ever seen. I hated it. And obviously you can tell a theme of I hate things and eventually I love them. I would say out of all Star Wars, Rogue One is probably my favorite Star Wars movie ever.
Wow.
And that's
a turnaround.
It's a bold statement. Yeah, I know, 100%. He's like, okay, you need to go back and you need to watch it again. So I had a day off and I took the full day and I sat down and I watched it and I loved it. And what I love is I like the people. We're not all heroes. We're not all superheroes. We're not all these special whatever. But you had real people. You had the actual rebellion, and you had Jyn Erso, who didn't want to be a hero, who was done with the whole thing, coming into her own. And okay, here we go. You had K2SO, who had the classic Star Wars comic relief without it being over the top and overly blatantly thrown in your face comic relief, and I loved it. And the amount of I don't want to say cameos, but the amount of not even Easter eggs, just things, classic Star Wars things. Everything seemed classic Star Wars. Your aliens, the outfits, everything seemed like it fit. This movie could have come out in the 1970s and we would have been perfectly fine with it, and so I loved it. The ending caught me completely off guard with Scarif being completely destroyed. But what I loved too, I loved the classic ode to Return of the Jedi with, oh, well, I hope that these codes check out and we're going to infiltrate past and we get down to the Imperial base. And it's this is what in my opinion, this is what we had been missing. We saw another type of troopers. We had the shore troopers and we had all of that, and I loved it. It completely caught me off guard and I loved it. Solo, not so much. I understood where they were going with it, and they were set. I loved the things like how he got the DLH, whatever it is, DL-44 blaster. He got hit the blaster that he has. You know, I loved that. I loved seeing how he met Chewbacca and all of these different little things that led us into who Han Solo is. The Sabacc game right at the end where he figured out the trick and he ends up catching Lando on it. We've heard about the fact that he won the Millennium Falcon in a card game. Now we've seen it, you know?
Right, yeah.
So I loved that, but nothing about it. And I think the biggest thing is it wasn't Harrison Ford, and obviously we knew it couldn't be Harrison Ford.
Right.
And so that kind of caught me off guard. So I have to like remove myself. And I think one of the biggest things that I'm waiting for somewhere in Star Wars is the link between Kira and Maul.
Oh, dude, you know, I want a Crimson Dawn show so bad.
Right? We see that at the end. And everyone in the Book of Boba was talking about that. Like, oh, we're going to see Crimson Dawn, you know, Kira's going to make a comeback, or we're going to see something. And we didn't see anything. And I was waiting episode after episode after episode, and we never saw it. But they took the time and energy to include that in the movie. We need something from that because we've been left with nothing but questions, you know? So
I couldn't agree more, man. Well, that's what I like. They just announced that Andor got a season 2. And to me, it's hard to believe, because we haven't heard anything about Book of Boba season 2, but it's hard to believe that in a world where Andor gets a season 2, that Boba wouldn't get a season 2, in my opinion. And I really hope that the next season, I mean, I'm fine with Crimson Dawn or the Hutts, but if they give us a Crimson Dawn, like, you know, season 2, man, I think that's going to be sick.
Yeah. Oh, I think that would be super awesome. I was talking about this with a friend. I wish that we had gotten a show just called Star Wars, similar to things like Game of Thrones, or I'm trying to think of another reference now that I've said that. But just give me a long show where I can throw in as many different of the characters as I want. Because right now we have The Mandalorian, then the Book of Boba, but all of the shows are connecting, right? We have Luke and we have Ahsoka. We're going to have an Ahsoka show, and there's rumors of a Bo-Katan show, and then we're going to have Andor. And I know that Andor takes place before. So, like, I understand why that's its own separate show. Mm-hmm. That's fine. But we're creating all of these individual shows, and my concern is The Mandalorian is going to be 2 seasons. I know that they've re-upped for a 3rd season, but it's going to be 2 seasons. Book of Boba is going to be 1 to 2 seasons. Ahsoka is going to be a season. Bo-Katan is going to be a season. You know, and like that's one of my concerns. Is it almost feels like the MCU, and I know that they're taking it from the MCU model of, yeah, we can make a lot of money off this, and then we can link it to this other one, and like that's cool, and I like the link. But just give me one continuous story and let these characters pop in, because I love Star Wars. Star Wars is Star Wars. I am not a critic of Star Wars by any means, but that was my one issue that I kept having with people for Book of Boba, is people kept saying, they're like, oh, this is Boba Fett show, and what was it, episode 5? We didn't even see Boba Fett. Mm-hmm. I didn't care. I just sat back and enjoyed Star Wars being Star Wars. But a lot of people were like, oh, it's supposed to be focused on Boba Fett. Well, if we had just made it a Star Wars show, then there's no issue one way or another. You know what I mean? Definitely.
I couldn't agree with you more. How would you feel about, like, what if they had all these shows? Because obviously, I don't think they could do, or maybe they could do it now. I don't know, like combining all the shows into one. How would you feel about them doing all these shows and then maybe having like either a movie or like another trilogy where all the shows are combined into a trilogy after we get the shows?
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. And I think that what they're doing right now is a great, whatever direction they go. And I'm not one to complain at all. I will sit there and I will watch 3 seasons of The Mandalorian and then turn around and watch a season of Book of Boba and then watch a series of Ahsoka. Like, I want to watch all of it.
Definitely.
But yeah, I mean, if they did, because MCU worked the exact same way, right? We released Iron Man and then they released whatever, and it kept kind of going, and eventually it all kind of culminated together into the Avengers. Mm-hmm. So I would love to see that. Hey, we're going to give an in-depth storyline to each character, and eventually we're going to work them together. And I think that would be great. I love that we got to see more Luke Skywalker.
Oh yeah.
You know, we got, right. You know, we got to see more Luke Skywalker and him building his Jedi temple, which we put back from, the sequels, and we got to see him from the originals. And like, I loved all of it. You know, I love the fact that a lot of people that I read are like, oh, well, it's nothing but fan pandering. Yeah, it's fan service, and that's fine because I'm a fan and I appreciate the service of you giving me what I want. Like, yes, I want to see all of these different things. So I thought that it was great.
Yeah, I agree. That was my biggest gripe with the sequel trilogy, is that they played a lot on the original trilogy, right? They brought in a lot of stuff, but as far as like the prequels go, there really wasn't a whole bunch of prequel era stuff in the sequel trilogy. I guess you could kind of have Anakin and stuff like that and a little bit of Yoda, but I really thought that they're doing a good job with Mandalorian and Boba, with kind of giving the prequel era like fans like, hey, we haven't forgotten about you. Like they're throwing a lot of stuff from we got the Naboo starfighter, and I'm blanking right now, but I know there's a lot more stuff that we got from the prequels, and I was like, man, that's really cool that they're
the Tuskens. The Tuskens were a huge one. You know,
definitely.
we didn't see any female Tuskens or children Tuskens or anything except for in the prequels. You know, so now we're seeing an expansion of the Tuskens and all of that type of stuff. Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, I think like they're really giving us like. I think they're really playing to everybody, which is like a thing that I personally really like. You know, they're like, if you're a prequels fan, we got you. If you're a sequels fan, we got you. If you're an original trilogy fan, we got you. And I think as far as like Disney goes, I think they're doing a really good job of kind of including everybody as of like right now. But then, man, that was great. As far as like your kind of your movie rankings and what you did, that was a really in-depth thing. I really liked what you had to say about that.
It's good. I'm glad. Thanks.
So you have watched the Book of Boba Fett all the way through?
All the way through.
What did you think as a whole? What did you think of the season?
I loved it, but I also love character development. Give me a character and let me explore it. Let me find out more about it. And I saw a video and, you know, a comical video, and someone's like, you know, oh my gosh, I can't believe that Boba Fett isn't the same as the tattoo I got on my arm when I was 18, you know?
Right.
And it's like, yes, the Boba Fett that they wanted, we got in the finale, right? Him doing, and that was what I wanted too. But I love that we got a more in-depth look at Star Wars. Boba Fett as a character got fleshed out. He had a shitty life, bad things had happened, and there he was being fleshed out as a character. He's changing the way that he wants to go. He no longer wants to work for people. Why is he becoming a daimyo? Cool, we got all of that. And I think people expected this much more action-packed show, but I wasn't mad about it at all. I saw Boba Fett in Boba Fett armor. I got to see updated Boba Fett armor. I got to see how he got from the Sarlacc pit to there. I love all of the background stuff that they pulled in. You know, there's that video that's out there from Parks and Rec where they're doing the
right.
the guys talking, and you can line the two up and it's exactly the same, you know? And so I loved that. There's a robot chicken of how Max Rebo survives, and they brought back Max Rebo, you know, and they could have left that stuff out and no one would have been the wiser, but they pulled in all of these things because it's been so long since we've seen Boba Fett. It's been so long since we've had anything like that there's so much fan stuff, fan background to it, that they could pull all of that. And I loved it, you know, that stuff. And then episode 5, a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, you know, Boba Fett wasn't even in episode 5. That's fine. Who cares? We got we got season 3, episode 1 of The Mandalorian, or episode 17 of the season 2 of The Mandalorian. Who cares?
2.5.
Star Wars is Star Wars, right? Like, we got the Naboo starfighter. We got the engine upgrade that's the same piece that they're holding up in A New Hope. You know, stuff like that. Like, it was great Star Wars. Like, who cared if Boba Fett was in it? It was great Star Wars, and we moved forward from there. You know, and the finale, we got what we wanted. A lot of people, you know, didn't like the little Vespa jet bike things, but we have Vespas here on Earth, and now we're talking about a wide galaxy. Like, you're telling me that we're not going to have people that are riding that type of stuff around? Who cares? They're supposed to be young kids. That's what they want. They want bright and shiny. And it's Star Wars. It's now canon Star Wars, and you can hate it if you want to, or you can just choose to sit back and love the fact that Star Wars is Star Wars and move forward with it, you know?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, that's the thing is like, personally for me, like I wasn't a huge fan of. I didn't mind the mods and the idea of the street bike gang. As a concept, I felt like to me personally, the execution wasn't great, but I was like, if that's my biggest problem with this entire show, like, is it really that big of a deal? You know, just because I don't like one aspect of like how they designed it, like, is it really going to ruin the whole show for me? You know, like I'm exactly like you, where I'm just like, you know what? Like, if that's my only problem, it was a good freaking show, you know? So I couldn't agree more.
I wanted to see more. You're telling me that this is a swoop bike gang and they're all about mods. I wanted to see more modded swoops personally. Like you have so many different other swoops. And the reason it didn't bother me is all swoops look like what? They look like big motorcycle choppers, you know, long front ends. But if that's what canonically is a swoop, then to me, I feel like we should have continued that. But then you also have Marshall Cobb swoop, which was literally a pod race engine,
right?
You know, like,
heck yeah.
Why can these guys who are all about modding things, why don't they have modded spaceship parts or pod racing? Like, instead, all of their stuff looked the same. They just had Power Ranger colors. And I agree with you. I didn't need 900 mirrors and these bright colors, but I'm willing to accept the fact that, just like you, if that's the thing that I'm most upset about, I'm okay with it. You know?
Right. Man, and that finale, oh man, when Boba Fett does when Boba Fett and Din come out, and then he does that, like, he does the like knee thing where he like
the high knee.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't know I ever needed that, but 10 out of 10, you know. I was like, I need to go buy a hot toy right now of Boba Fett and put him in that pose forever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was like, that's just good Star Wars, man. That's just good stuff. Because we never see, I mean, I think The Mandalorian, I think we might have seen it in Clone Wars, but The Mandalorian, when he comes out and he's fighting all the stormtroopers, I think that's the first time we ever really see like knee darts in use, you know? And I just think that's so cool that it's just like such a little thing, but he uses those things, man. And it's just so cool, you know? Yeah.
Well, and what I love too, and I think what a lot of people were expecting was, you remember the first time that we see Boba Fett back in his armor in The Mandalorian when they're trying to protect Grogu and he is just destroying stormtroopers?
Right.
I think that people just expected that action throughout the entire book of Boba.
Right.
And I'm fine with the fact that we didn't have that, but we definitely had it on the epic scale there at the end for the finale. They're flying around on their jetpacks and everything's good. And, you know, I loved it. We had everything. We had knee darts. We had flamethrowers. We had concussion rockets. We had whistling birds. We had the blasters. We had everything, you know?
Right,
and I just thought that it was great, you know?
Yeah. Dude, he rides a freaking Rancor.
He rides a freaking
We've never
Rancor.
seen that besides, like, I guess video games, but like we never seen that in live. Dude, it's just, it was the coolest thing.
Personally, the one thing that I did love, so we have seen it one other time in Bad Batch when Omega is on a baby Rancor, and now we have her brother Boba on a full-size Rancor. So it's not like I didn't end up finishing the Bad Batch, which I know is terrible, but I understood the reference. Like, I saw the correlation there, and I was like, okay, this is awesome. Regardless, seeing him climb around like King Kong and do all this stuff, like, you know, it was incredible. So I loved it.
I really wanted. I was hoping that, like, I don't know, maybe the Pikes would bring in like some air support. I just wanted to see him grab like a plane or something like that, or a starship like out of the sky. I was like, that would have been the ultimate thing. But man, the King Kong reference, I was like, as soon as he started climbing, I was like, they're gonna do a King Kong, man. He's gonna climb the top of the thing. You know,
they have to.
It was great.
Yeah,
it's great. And
I thought it was great.
I also love the because we have never seen those they kind of look like droidicas almost.
Those gigantic whatever they were.
Yeah, but I like, because like while the sequels weren't my like super favorite, and I think it was The Last Jedi, they talk about like all the industries and how like the industries are profiting from both sides, you know, and that they make millions and millions of different droids and stuff. I really like that we're seeing like everybody has kind of like a different class of droids. Like the Separatists had the battle droids and the super battle droids. The Pikes have these kind of like hybrid between like super battle droids and droidicas, you know, because they have the shields and they have their climbing and stuff like that. I thought that was really cool that we're seeing these like other universe like droids, you know. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
So-
we're finally getting the expanded universe that we've always wanted.
Exactly.
You know, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said you watched Bad Batch. Did you watch Clone Wars at all or anything like that, or are you still working on it? I know it's a lot to watch, so
I was. Oh, that's my bad. What did I just do?
no worries.
Okay. Why is my thing turned off? Hold on. I'm like getting another call while I'm doing this, and I have no idea why it blocked me out. Stop. This is why you have post-production.
Yeah, exactly right.
Why do I not? What is it doing? How do I turn my camera back on? Camera. There we go. Yes. Ha-ha.
Nice.
We made it work. All right. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So talking about Clone Wars, I was at that like in between period where when Clone Wars first came out, I was kind of a little bit older. I don't even remember what year it came out, but I was already a little bit older, and when I was younger, I didn't grow up like with a bunch of TV channels or any of that type of stuff. So I kind of missed the first few seasons, and it sounded really cool, but I had missed it. And by the time that I was coming back to watch it, it was a couple years ago, or I guess basically like a year and a half ago, right before Bad Batch came out. And when I started trying to watch it, I couldn't, or I started trying to get into it in season 1 and season 2 and season 3 as an adult are just rough.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to teach you like childhood beliefs and like,
yeah. On this episode, we're going to learn friendship.
Yeah, exactly. This is the difference between right and wrong, you know? And so I had a really hard time with it, and the Bad Batch was coming out and it sounded really cool. And so I really wanted to. And one of my friends was like, watch season 6 and season 7 and you'll get into the Bad Batch and you'll go from there. And even season 6 and season 7 was rough for me to watch.
Really?
Yeah, it really was. And I think that I didn't have the same connection to people that started watching it when they were younger or started watching from season 1. They have a connection to Fives, and they have a connection to Echo, and they have a connection to all of these other characters, all the clones, you know?
Right.
I see the things all the time, you know, who's your favorite clone? It's like, I don't know who any of these people are, you know?
Right.
Like I really don't have any connection to any of them. Clones are clones, you know, Wolves, Fives, Rex, all that type of stuff. So I just didn't end up with the same type of connection. And then starting Bad Batch again, you know, they're pulling back to a lot of the things that happened in Clone Wars that I didn't have that connection to. So were they awesome? Yes, they're super cool. You know, I love all the different Bad Batch characters, and they all seem really cool. And I love how they all have a different kind of thing, and they're all the knockoffs or the not so good or the defective clones. And I think that they're awesome. I just couldn't get sucked into it as much. My favorite thing involving the Bad Batch or Clone Wars is the Kanan Jarrus reference in season 7, because I watched Rebels, and for some reason I managed to connect with Rebels. I'm not sure why.
It's a great show.
Yeah, and I ended up loving that, but it's the same thing. It starts off the same way as Clone Wars does. It's very much like, on this episode, we're going to learn friendship. You know?
Right.
And I'm not sure why I got sucked into that, but I started watching it just because Star Wars is Star Wars, and I wanted to watch it, and I ended up loving it, you know? And so same concept, seeing that little reference of that little tidbit of this is Kanan Jarrus and this is him as a child, and now you have that other reference, it really kind of sucked me in on that.
Right on.
Yeah.
Did you watch Visions at all?
I didn't watch Visions.
Oh, okay.
I haven't watched Visions. When Visions came out, I loved Star Wars, and I asked some friends. I like real people in Star Wars, so I like stormtroopers and Mandalorians and regular bounty hunters and just people that are people in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked some people beforehand. I have so many other things going on that I don't really get a chance to sit down and watch TV very often.
Right.
And so I was like, what is in Visions? And they're like, oh, there's all these Force users and there's Jedi and this, that, and the other. And I was like, that's cool, but that's not really my speed of Star Wars. So it's not something I really want to like throw myself into versus the Book of Boba or the Mandalorian. If it had been more regular, I don't want to even say regular because Mandalorians aren't regular or whatever people are going to say. But if it had been more like that, I probably would have taken the time to watch it. Not saying that it's not on the list. It's just not the highest priority on the list of things.
Right.
You know?
I feel you. Because it's definitely, I don't know if you ever watched the 2003 Clone Wars, like before like the animated one came out. It was the 2D one. But that one, everything is cranked up to like 11. You know, like all the force powers are super overpowered. They're crazy, and I love it. But Visions is kind of the same way, where it's just like everything is like, here's like Star Wars, and then they take it to like the next level, you know? So I understand what you're saying. It doesn't really have that kind of like almost like realness or like human connection that like a lot of these shows have. So I completely understand.
And I wanted to watch it for the Star Wars art, you know, the fact that there's so many different styles and all these artists have created them. So it's like I said, it's definitely still on the list of things to watch, but it wasn't the top. It hasn't been the top priority. Now, Book of Boba's done. We have a while until we see Andor or Kenobi or any of that other type of stuff. So now that I have an availability, I'm probably going to end up watching it. And the other thing that I do like about it is, from my understanding of Visions, it's single episodes. It's not linked stories. It's this episode is done by this artist, and it's this story of this character, and then the next one, and then the next one. So I don't feel as guilty like sitting down and being like, okay, wait, what happened in the last episode? It's been a week since I've been able to watch something, you know? So I am looking forward to it, and it is going to be on the list, or it is on the list, but it just hasn't happened yet. For sure.
Well, the next part of this podcast I like to call Minoc Minutes, where I just kind of lob like really quick questions like, would you be this or would you be that, or what's your favorite this? So they're kind of short-ended questions.
Okay, I love it.
The first one I usually ask, and I think I already know what your answer is probably going to be. If you were in the Star Wars universe, who would you be? Would you be a Jedi? Would you be a Mandalorian, a Sith, a clone trooper? Who would you be if you were in the...
Time period wise, shirt Mandalorian. If I had to be within the clone realm, I'd love to be a clone commando. Outside of that, you know, that's probably the two different paths I would try to go.
Okay, cool. So if you had to be trained by a Jedi Knight or a Sith Lord, who would you pick to be trained by?
Oh, I'd have to pick Obi-Wan.
Okay.
Like
It's
episode
great.
2 Obi-Wan.
Oh yeah. He's got the mullet flowing and everything. He's
100%.
Right
Plus,
on.
you know, if I can be like Anakin, that means I get one of those little rat tail things going on. You know, I'm set. Yeah.
Right on. So if you had to build your own lightsaber, what style lightsaber would you have, and what colors, depending on the lightsaber, would you have?
Blue, and I'd have to go with Luke's lightsaber or Anakin's lightsaber from A New Hope. Just absolute classic first lightsaber we see.
Oh yeah.
And I'd have to go with that.
Nice. If you had to pick 3 characters to be, they don't have to be in order, but your top 3 characters of all time, who would they be?
Ooh. Din Djarin, Jyn Erso, and man, probably either Han Solo or Rey. Probably Han, because he goes across so many more movies.
We can throw Rey in there.
Yeah, sure. Rey will get thrown down. Yeah, she'll get thrown down. That's fine.
So if you were gonna build your Star Wars family, who would be your dad? Who would be your mom? Who would be your best friend? And who would be your enemy? We can start with the mom and dad.
Okay, let's start with mom and dad. I feel like, okay, so for mom, I'm going to say Jyn Erso is going to be mom. Just because I feel like if I did some pretty messed up stuff, I could probably get away with it with mom. Like, but we're doing this, like, isn't that good? And then for dad, again, I'd have to go with Obi-Wan, like, you know, because he gives you that solid mentorship, but at the same point in time, like, he's going to do some messed up stuff too, and we're okay with that.
Well, I feel like if you did get like into some messed up stuff, they'd be like, okay, how do we fix this? Let's go. You know, they wouldn't like, they might scold you a little bit, but like they've gotten into enough stuff themselves that they'll be like, okay, how do we handle this? Where are we going to go from here? You know? Yeah,
100%. And then what were the other ones? Best friend,
and then your nemesis.
Best friend and nemesis. My best friend would be K2SO. Because
solid,
very similar as far as like humor and stuff like that. And I know that he, again, I don't know why I like assume that I'm always going to get in trouble, but he's probably going to have my back. And I love the idea of him being there for all of it. So yeah, probably K2SO as a best friend. And then as a nemesis, oh my gosh. Man. Sebulba. would be my nemesis.
Okay.
You know, throwing it out to a more obscure character.
Yeah.
But, you know, talking about nemesis, you know, he has that whole, I'm going to be a bad guy no matter what. I'm going to be a jerk, and I hate that type of person. So 100% Sebulba would be my nemesis.
That's an interesting one. I don't think anybody's ever said Sebulba. So
there you go.
That's an interesting. If you had to bring one force power into real life, what force power would you have?
Ooh.
I know that's tough because there's so many good ones.
There are. I feel like, probably force healing, which I know is like not very many people have that or whatever, but I feel like there's enough messed up stuff in the world that force healing would probably get me more than like force push or force choke or something like that.
Man, you could make serious bank on that. You could be like, oh yeah, I'm like a herbalist, like healer. Come to me and I'll heal all your sins.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So this one's a two-parter. What is your favorite planet from Star Wars, and what planet would you personally want to live on?
Man, my favorite planet is Tatooine, just because it's a classic. Something about the binary sunset whole scene thing, you know, it's a classic. Mm-hmm. What planet would I want to live on? Probably Naboo. Not because it's super, like, not because it's peaceful or whatever, but you have forests. It is peaceful. It is beautiful. There's, you know, you got your waterfalls and all that other type of stuff.
Definitely. And the architecture too, man. The architecture, like,
for sure.
Like, I don't know if you're into like the video games, but like going through Battlefront 2 and like seeing all the, I'm like, man, this would be really cool to like walk around and, you know. Yeah,
just on a peaceful day when things aren't just getting blown up around you. You know?
Yeah, when the Separatists
you're still managing to. Yeah, exactly.
Do you have a favorite musical score?
So here's one of my issues is, yes, I do. It's the Force theme or binary sunset. No matter what, like when I try to look it up, I never end up finding what I'm looking for. But yes, that literally when Luke is standing there on Tatooine and seeing the sun come down, or the, you know, the two suns in the distance, gives me chills. Like 100% gives me chills. So yeah, that. Yeah,
that's my pick too.
Title it goes under. Yeah.
I want to say it's binary sunset, but you're right. It's kind of weird because sometimes when I look it up, it's not like when I type in binary sunset, that's not the theme that plays. And it's like, it kind of has like, I don't know if it has like a double name or something like that, but I think that's what it's called. If you, and this is also a two-parter, what is your favorite creature from Star Wars, and what creature would you want as a pet?
Oh gosh, that's a good one. My favorite creature. Oh man,
there's so many to pick from. I know it's hard.
There's so many to pick from. And like I'm trying to keep a clear head about it because I'm like, yeah, a Rancor, like they're the coolest. But before this most recent episode of Book of Boba, I didn't care about them whatsoever.
Right.
So, my favorite creature and one I'd want as a pet. Oh man, what is the I can't even think of what it's called. Attack of the Clones. They're in the arena. There's like that cat thing that's running around. That's one of them.
I know exactly what you're talking about, but I don't know. Here, let me. I can search it real quick. Cat.
Yeah, so that would probably be my favorite. I love the idea of having one as a pet, but I probably never would. And I would say probably to have as a pet would probably be one of like the Tusken Raider dog things. I don't even know what they're called. Yeah. But I mean, we've seen them in Attack of the Clones, and was that Attack of the Clones? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We see him in Attack of the Clones, and then we see him
like killing Tuskens.
Yeah. And then we see him in Book of Boba. And I just like that they're straight up like a regular dog, you know, they act like a dog. They move around like a dog, you know, and I just think that they're great. But yeah, those probably my favorite, or whatever that other animal thing is.
Yeah, it's a Nexu. I just looked it up.
That's what it is. Yeah, I just think that they look cool, you know, and they're furry, and I don't know.
Heck yeah, I thought it was cool because we saw it in we saw one in Bad Batch when like Omega's playing in the farm, and I was like, oh, we saw one in animation. Like I was tripping out.
Like starts sneaking up on her. Yeah, for sure.
So who? I know you said you didn't. Your clones aren't your favorite. I usually ask like who your favorite clone is. So I'm gonna switch it up though, and say who is your favorite Mandalorian, and what is your favorite Mandalorian armor set?
My favorite Mandalorian character-wise is Din Djarin, just because he has more of a backstory. Boba Fett is classic. Right. I love Boba Fett, but I have loved the evolution of Din Djarin. I have kids, so seeing his relationship with Grogu has been great. Mm-hmm. And we saw so much more of him than we had seen of Boba Fett before. So I love him as a character. My favorite armor set is the heavy infantry Mandalorian, Paz Vizsla, his armor. Oh, yeah. Just cool. The gigantic, big, tanky armor, and I thought that was great. And I love that we finally are seeing a more vast variety of Mandalorian armor than we used to, back in the day. So
heck yeah. I bet you were super psyched when you saw them battling in episode 5.
Oh yeah, for sure. When they start fighting, that was awesome.
Yeah, I like that because he's like a bigger dude. Like you can tell he can like take on a whole bunch of people, and I really liked that they showed how much he struggled with the Darksaber and like the way, even though he was like a massive dude, it's just like strength does not help you when it comes to like wielding the Darksaber, and I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah, and what I loved about the Darksaber thing, that in particular was we've seen the Darksaber before in Rebels with Sabine Wren. We had already established canonically that the Darksaber is not easy to wield, and now we have people just trying to pick it up, and it's not as easy as just picking it up and throwing it around, So yeah, I thought that was great.
Heck yeah. Well, that's going to wrap up the Mynock Minutes. We're going to finish up here. I usually ask 2 final questions, and then we'll wrap it up.
That's fine.
As we get these millions of shows that they've been announcing, what out of everything that they have announced are you the most hyped for?
I am very hyped for Andor. Obviously, if there's another Book of Boba or the Mandalorian season 3, yes, of course. But I loved Rogue One. I love that they're making an Andor. It's back to that classic time period. We're going to see a lot of things that we saw before. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Probably out of everything, that's what I'm looking forward to. Followed up very closely by the Rogue Squadron show, because spaceships and all of that. Yeah, that'll be not sick. That we know a lot about it, but that will be really cool.
Definitely. Yeah, I couldn't agree. I'm glad because like the one thing that really got me about Rogue One was the fact that like I really like when they showed that the rebels aren't all good and like the Empire's not all bad. Like at the beginning, Cassian kills that guy because he can't get out and he doesn't want the secrets to be let out. So I really hope it kind of follows that path of like kind of like towing the line between good and evil, because I think as at least as far as a show goes, it's obviously going to be a prequel to Rogue One because he doesn't, spoilers if you haven't seen it, I guess, but he doesn't survive. But I think it'll be cool because I think he'll still be in that mindset of like, I'm going to do whatever I can for the rebellion,
Yeah.
So
for sure.
And then if Lucasfilm called you up and was like, Grant, we need an idea for a book, movie, video game, whatever you want to do. We need an idea, and it's got to be from you. What would you pitch them?
I would pitch them an open world Star Wars game that's a lot like the old Star Wars Galaxies game that came out. That's not super cartoony. That's not whatever. That is, you can be whatever Star Wars character you want to be. You can exist in the world of Star Wars. Give yourself total Star Wars immersion. You have access to being on the Rebel side or the Imperial side, or whatever alliances you want to go with. Maybe make it kind of the same time that we're having with the Book of Boba and everything. The Resistance is building, the First Order is building. So we're not quite at that, but we have, if that's what you like, cool, it's there. If you like classic Star Wars, cool, classic Star Wars is there. Throw in things like the Naboo starfighters and stuff like that for the people from the sequels. But Star Wars Galaxies had everything. You had ships, you had armor, you had not armor, you had Jedi, Force users. That's what I would pitch. I love the cosplay community and Star Wars community because people can be who they want to be within Star Wars, and Star Wars has accepted the fact that the world is Star Wars. People can exist within it. So that's what I would want. I just want the ability for people to be able to be whatever they want to be within Star Wars, and that's what I would pitch as a game.
Nice. Yeah, I'm totally. I do game design. That's like my thing. So I couldn't agree more. Like kind of I don't know if you played Skyrim, but like kind of like a Skyrim style Star Wars game. Would be. Oh man, I mean. I don't think I would ever leave my house. I just play that.
I don't think many people would. Yeah, I don't think many people would.
But hey man, I really thank you for coming on and taking. I know you said you're busy, so taking the time to come on the podcast and just kind of talking Star Wars with me, I really appreciate it.
No, I really appreciate the invite and you finding me and inviting me out there. So I really appreciate it. Thanks for spending your time talking about Star Wars with me.
Heck yeah. And if you guys have made it this far in this video, thank you for watching. And as always, may the Force be with you.